Good morning, folks. Lindsay Elson with SPS back in the building for another Monday Motivation. And happy to be able to start off with a little nice music to get the day going. I was kind of already on that tip and just rolling right into it. But happy recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Let's shout out him first and foremost. Shout out to Dr. King and all that he has done, the impact he has had so many years away from his untimely demise. We still talk about him, we celebrate him, and boy, what an impact he has had. We look at the words he shared and how it's impacted our lives. But what I want to talk to you guys about today still is appropriate in recognizing Dr. King, but it's something that has been on my mind lately. I've had some deep thought, I want to say deep prayer and motivation about it. And the topic is guilt culture, victims and victimizers. Guilt culture. Now, Lindsay, what are you talking about today? Let me just say first, as I always say, my Monday motivations come from the headlines or for things in my personal life, and I'm not afraid to admit that this topic had been on my mind for at least a week, and it really was in response to one of my childhood friends posting something, and also a phone call I got from a childhood friend as well. And I say that being completely transparent. Got my brother Aaron Mays this morning. Good morning, brother. Good to have you here, man. Always good to have your support. What we're talking about today is guilt culture, victim and victimizers. I'm telling the story how I even got here to this topic today. Again, a childhood friend who I love and respect from childhood. Two childhood friends were kind of bookends. One that posted something, another that followed up with a phone call, and we talked about it. And normally thoughts come and go, and I try not to let anything that derives from social media have that much of an impact. But every day of the week I woke up, it was top of mind for me again because I was triggered. I was triggered by the question as well as by the response I got via phone call, because I feel that I'm living in a space that can address that. And what the question was really posing was about how our culture, particularly African Americans, should do more to give back to help each other. Now, I think if anyone who knows me, who's spent any kind of moment around me, I'm all about the culture and the cause and giving back and helping. But there's also a unique space from my entrepreneurial experience that makes me have a different perspective, especially when I go back over the years of what my experiences have been. So what I want to talk to you about is this term guilt culture, and it's been defined as a trend or organizing principle in society characterized by the use of guilt to promote socially acceptable behavior. And this also comes in the form of social media. I told you this started with that. But, we can have so many cliches and thoughts and random things that we can say to talk about how we want to help and give back or what people should do, particularly as it relates to supporting black-owned business. Now, I feel that this is a very universal message, because when you talk about guilt culture is not just talking about what's happening in the African-American community. Guilt culture can be within your job, the culture within your job, the culture on your team, the culture in your household. Are there things that we can do? And many times we are victims, then sometimes we're the victimizers. And I'm not saying that people are going out blatantly trying to victimize people. Like, I want to take advantage of you and put you on a guilt trip, but I want to give you some perspective to let you know that you may be the catalyst for this. Or also let you know that you may actually be the victim of guilt culture and not even know it. Spent time with a friend just recently, and I realized that so many of their motivations are somewhat motivated by the guilt of feeling that they're not adequate enough. So here's what I want to talk about. Whenever you got a situation where you feel someone is saying that you're not living up to a standard, or someone is referencing something that kind of makes you kind of think a little bit more, you have to ask yourself this. Is the argument backed by substantive information or by conjecture? What is conjecture? Just to help everybody out and help myself out sometimes, I look up words on a regular basis. Conjecture is an opinion or a conclusion formed on the basis of incomplete information. Conjecture about the newcomers were many and varied. They didn't know anything about these people, so they just assumed and did these things. I got my brother Kevin Marshall in this morning. Brother, we talking about guilt culture, victim and victimizers, and talking about how if you're going to accept something from someone, make sure that it's based in substance and not conjecture, not just something that goes wrong. Because here's the thing. Man seeks to satisfy their desires with the least exertion. That's from Mr. Earl Nightingale, who I call one of my mentors, even though he was from a day gone by. This is one of the early on photos of him and being part of the self-help movement early on. But think about that. Man seeks to satisfy their desire with the least exertion. when somebody can just call you as a coach and say, hey, coach, you've been doing this for a long time, and I'm sure you're free to give information, but how much time are you going to give, your best play? Meaning that people want to have success without putting in the work. Another well-known influencer, shout out to Cube. I just heard Cube say this the other day. I caught him saying this. Cube said, don't complain about what you didn't get from the work you didn't put in. Don't complain about the work you didn't get. Don't complain about what you didn't get from the work you didn't put in. See, here's the thing. I struggle because I don't want to come off as some ultra-conservative guy. But when I take my life experiences, leaving the corporate world and starting my own business and these type of things, it really impacted me as far as the experience I have to go through and what I have to do. What does Aaron say? Does it depend on what platform they're trying to push? Well, in many cases, that's a very good question. And I'm glad you said that, Aaron. I'm glad I got my brothers Aaron and Kevin on today. And Kevin says, yes, no doubt. Because I think sometimes the platform they're trying to push is sometimes something for their own personal gain. I'm not mad at that. This is America. But I think so many times it's very easy for us to tell someone what they should be doing to help us. My mother helped me with this a long time ago. Charity is important. It's important to be charitable. But I am the one to determine who I should be charitable with. It's not for someone to guilt me into being charitable. Hey, you should help me. Because what you have to understand with my time, with my resources, they may be limited for whatever it may be. And how am I going to find great success if I'm always giving what's most important to me? They may say, Lindsay, it's not all about this, it's about giving back. But let me tell you something. I was triggered by the experience because I'm living it. I'm living it when I have people who want things from me but don't want to give. But then on the other hand, I have people who are willing to support me and do what I ask of them and move on and not have an issue with it. And we had it. Let's talk about standards. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders says, don't ever change your standards. The standard is the standard. People change, the weather, your needs and wants may change also. The standard can't change. You need consistency in life to be who you want to be and where you want to be. Be consistent with your standards. So I'm saying if you set a standard for yourself, whether it's your business or relationship, be consistent with that. Don't let the 140 character tweets change you because you heard a clever statement that somebody says. Is it rooted in something substantive? Or is it just conjecture? It's just a thought that's out there. Aaron also says, so if we do something based on what's on our heart, it's good enough and job well done. Yeah, I think so, man. But I think also, too, when we go out to do things, you have people who can watch, who can ask you of things. And you may be saying, hey, man, come do this for a culture. I'll get you on the back end. Or, we got to help each other. But you're putting me in a situation where I may have limited resources, and now I'm feeling guilty because I'm not giving back and helping a certain way. Kevin comes on and says, he said, to be honest, I'm really limited on what I give. Somebody talking that talk. I'll send you in the direction they need to go, but you have to find your way through it. Kevin, why are you in my head, man? I should have called you when I was putting this together. Somebody who I respect a great deal, somebody who I know is about the community, somebody who's given, his, put his life on the line for the service of his country. And he's saying these same things. He's saying, and to be honest, I'm really limited on what I give. Well, Kevin, but that is the core of where guilt culture starts. Because what you're saying is, I got to be limited. But why you got to be limited? Because you've been burned before. I'm sure that's what it is. Aaron says, great point, Kevin. So what I'm getting at, man, is we trying to level up in 2023, and we really want to live in the legacy of what Dr. King was about. And people don't know, man, Dr. King's last years before his assassination, man, his approval rating, if you will, for lack of a better term, was very low. So what we see now are these post-King responses and how people respond to him and hold him in high regard, man. But when he was out, he was going through. My point being is this, man. When you're trying to come up and be on the come up, you got to seek out that information on your own, man. You can't just pick up the phone and call somebody and expect them just to give you the whole blueprint. And it may just be that they don't have it to give. And then we put people on a guilt trip, and you may not be doing it purposely. You may not purposely be a victimizer, but you have to understand if somebody's building something and you're quick to call, and Kevin, I got to go back to how you broke it down, man. He said, he limited what I give. I send you in the direction you need to go, but you have to find your way through it. And that's the point. That goes back to Q's point, folks. He said, don't complain about what you didn't get from the work you didn't put in. You want to call Kevin, you want to call me, you want to call Aaron and say, hey, man, put me on. But say, well, what have you done thus far? What have you done to say, hey, I'm at this point, man, where I've kind of been going over this one thing over and over. I have a very specific question. Can I take you to lunch? Because what you're also doing is you're recognizing that the person's time is valuable, and you also recognize that the information is valuable. But going back to what Earl Nightingale said, man seeks to satisfy their desires with the least exertion. Now, a lot of people may not want to hear what I'm talking about with this, but I think that we're supposed to rise as a people, as a community, as a culture, as just a global human society. We got to think about, what are we giving? Yeah, you want somebody to give back and help you, but what are you giving to help support them and what's going on? You know? Kevin says his motto is, don't wish for it, work for it. Yeah, you know, and it's so interesting that us as African American men saying that, it can really come off as a very conservative point. And for so long, we've been challenged not to be that way and to be so giving. But if I keep giving to you, it just takes away from what I'm trying to accomplish. And then you have the people who sit back and watch you grind and go through it, and they want to make that. I just simply want to say, for every great accomplishment, there is sacrifice. For every great accomplishment, there's sacrifice. So if you're out here listening and you're trying to change your career, you're trying to make a different move, if you want to approach somebody, man, approach them with, like, hey, man, what can I do to get some time from you? Hey, man, can I take you lunch, buy you coffee? And normally those things are saying, okay, you're willing to recognize that my time is precious. And then, you know, as we say, don't mess up the plug. Don't mess it up. If somebody give you an opportunity, don't go back and mess that up. And the last few things I want to share before we get out of here, too, is that, particularly for African Americans, I found this. Here are free ways to support black-owned business. Because you're not going to come out and just pay me my fee that I set. Write a post or review. Tell your friends and family about them. Follow all their social media pages. Engage them with their posts. Give them a shout out. Sign up for their newsletter. Use their business hashtag when sharing about them. There are ways you can do it, but sometimes, in many cases, people don't even want to take that effort. It's like you see the value in it for yourself, but then again, you don't want to put any value into it to recognize that. Now again, I thought about this. It's been on my heart for a while, and I'm not saying that my way is the only way. This is just a perspective. Here we are in 2023, and we're talking about being successful. But before you ask a business or someone to give you something, what have you given them? And before you put somebody on a guilt trip, whether it's purposely, whether it's unconsciously, whatever it may be, you got to think, what have you contributed to them? You're asking value from this person, from their blood, sweat, and tears. What have you contributed to be able to be worthy of that? And then if you want to go off and talk about this person or say these things and put them on this guilt trip and be a victimizer and be part of that, you're not helping. So with that being said, I won't go on too long. This is something that's been on my heart. I do want to, again, recognize Dr. King and his progress. But if we really are about supporting the cause, you know, the civil rights movement couldn't have had success without people going in their pocket. There were some major donors and philanthropists. There's people that had to give. The name of the game sometimes now is, what are you willing to give to help this process go? And come to the table with your hands open and not just closed because you want to take. So with that being said, I'll get ready to wrap this up, guys. Lastly, my guy Aaron says, I'm glad you put this message out there. It's not discussed often enough. Yeah, you're right, brother. It's not, and I'm glad you were able to be receptive of it. Have a blessed day, my brother. Great word today. I appreciate you and all that you guys are doing. Appreciate you guys being my support on this day. I want to give a special shout out to my guy John Hagens. Today is his birthday. My says he was the best man at my wedding. Can't find a better brother along with these brothers that are on my timeline. So with that being said, this is Lindsay Hustle, SPS. We'll get on up out of here. Wish you the best. Peace.